The manhua begins with an overwhelming scene of desolation. Countless monster corpses cover the ground, their lifeless bodies witness a brutal battle. In the middle of the carnage, a young woman is standing, holding a dagger that exudes a poisonous and supernatural aura. He addresses the protagonist, his voice charged with a mixture of admiration and malice, declaring that he is truly special. The protagonist, exhausted and bleeding, lies on the remains of a defeated monster, his body soaked in blood. The girl, his younger sister, coldly comments on his extraordinary feat, despite having a life expectancy limited to only 100 years, he managed to conquer the ruins of the ancient god and defeat the horde of monsters. However, she reveals her true intention. He has come to claim the artifact. He fought with all his might to get the Eye of Judgment. Despite his serious injuries, the protagonist confronts her, his voice trembling with betrayal. He demands to know why his younger sister has turned against him at this crucial moment. His response is cold and dismissive. She reveals a truth that shatters him. He is not her blood brother, just an adopted child with a mark. He discards his family tie, declaring that he has no right to be called his brother. As she is talking, a blond man named Sun Fei approaches. His tone is mocking but calm. He berates the younger sister for her cruel words, but his true intentions are clear. She recognizes the usefulness of the protagonist, especially his unwavering love for her, which they have exploited. To secure the Eye of Judgment, Sun Fei reveals the depth of the betrayal. The soul-blinding dagger, which the younger sister wielded, was designed to drain the protagonist's life force. A meticulously crafted plan to ensure his victory. The protagonist's anger burns as he remembers the sacrifices he made for his younger sister. After the death of his parents, he assumed the role of their protector, facing countless risks and difficulties, especially after the arrival of the Game of the Gods. However, her resentment surfaces when she accuses him of controlling her life, dictating her every step under the pretext of discipline. She admits that although her efforts were helpful in ensuring their survival, they no longer need it now that they possess the Eye of Judgment. His words are the latest and cruel disregard, 4 years of dedication of the protagonist. Seizing the moment, Sun Fei lunges at the protagonist with her sword, instigating him to accept his fate with dignity. He promises to take care of the younger sister, but the protagonist's rage reaches its peak. He swears that, even in death, he will never forgive them. However, before he can act, Sun Fei's sword reaches him with lethal precision, slashing his throat with a single merciless blow. As his consciousness fades, the protagonist reflects on the world he leaves behind, a world forever altered by the Game of the Gods. By 2025, the forgotten Game of the Gods had descended upon humanity, dragging unsuspecting individuals into a realm of nightmares while they slept. In this world, one's own life became a currency. Dying cost fragments of one's life expectancy, while killing monsters could restore it. Players could extract abilities from the game, consuming their life force to wield unimaginable powers. In reality, the strongest could crush tanks with their bare hands, cut planes in half with swords, and even withstand nuclear explosions. The world was plunged into chaos, with disasters spreading like fire. The protagonist survived this brutal new reality, protecting his younger sister in countless trials. He fought tooth and nail to become one of the 100 strongest individuals in the world, overcoming impossible odds, to reach the ruins of the ancient god and claim the Eye of Judgment. He was about to reach the top of this new world, only to be betrayed by the only person he trusted. His hard work, his sacrifices, were reduced to nothing, just a stepping stone for others to ascend. As he agonizes, he swears that, if he had another chance, he would live for himself, not for others. Suddenly, the scene changes. The protagonist wakes up in his bed, his body unharmed. Disoriented, he wonders if he has really returned to the real world. When he looks at his cell phone, he notices the date too. 2025. The realization hits him. He has been reborn 9 years in the past, on the very day that the Game of the Gods began. Looking out the window, he understands that this is his second chance, an opportunity to rewrite his destiny. The outside world still has no idea of the coming cataclysm, but the protagonist knows the truth. This time, he won't be a pawn in someone else's game. This time, he will live for himself. Some time later, the tranquility of their morning is abruptly interrupted when the door slams open. Her younger sister storms in, her face red with anger. She screams, demanding to know why he didn't answer her calls. The protagonist, sitting quietly with a cup of coffee in his hand, remains silent, his expression inscrutable. Indifferent to his lack of response, she takes out her frustration, by knocking down a garbage can, scattering its contents on the ground. The protagonist observes his outburst of anger calmly and dispassionately, his mind wandering to the events of his past life. She remembers that, the day the forgotten game of the gods arrived, she had a heated argument with her younger sister. A fight that had been brewing for some time. The root of the conflict was none other than Sun Fei, the famous idol who had captured his sister's heart. In his eyes, Sun Fei was a glamorous and untouchable star, but the protagonist knew the truth. Behind the polished facade, Sun Fei was a manipulative con man who exploited his fans, taking money from them, and even worse. Determined to protect his younger sister from falling into Sun Fei's trap, the protagonist forbade her to associate with him. However, his efforts to protect her only created a barrier between the two. Instead of gratitude, he was greeted with accusations of controlling his sister's life and interfering in her choices. Now, as his younger sister continues her angry outburst, she blames him for Sun Fei's recent drop in the idol rankings, claiming it happened because the protagonist refused to give her money to support him. His words are a whirlwind of their own right and misdirected anger, but the protagonist has heard enough. With a quick and decisive movement, he stands up and slaps her hard in the face. The force of the blow makes her stagger backwards, her eyes wide open in surprise. Tears well up in her eyes as she trembles, her voice faltering as she demands to know how he dared to hit her. The protagonist's gaze is cold and threatening as he speaks. He says that he has no time or desire to argue with her today, but, if she keeps screaming nonstop, he will not hesitate to silence her personally. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out a gold credit card and throws it in her direction. He explains that this card contains all the money his parents left him. Despite the difficulties he faced over the years, he never touched a single penny, but today, he decides to give her everything, every last one. As he turns to leave, he adds that out of respect for his parents, he will not argue with her or dictate how she should spend the money. However, you need to listen carefully. As of today, he no longer considers her his sister. Having said that, he walks away, closing the door behind him, leaving her there, with tears running down her face, alone. In his room, the protagonist reflects on the weight of his decision. In her past life, she sacrificed too much trying to protect her younger sister. There were countless secret locations and treasures within the game of the gods that she avoided exploring, because they were too dangerous for her. He gave up opportunities for growth and power, all in the name of keeping her safe. Now, as he prepares to take sleeping pills and enter the game once more, he feels a strange sense of liberation. He wonders how far he can go without the burden of his sister holding him back. This time, he vows to use the knowledge of his past life to get ahead of everyone else, conquering the power and opportunities he once abandoned. As for his sister, he decides to let her prove her own worth on her own. He will have to face the harsh realities of the world without his guidance and protection. And as for Sun Fei, the man who orchestrated his betrayal and downfall in his past life, the protagonist's eyes darken with determination. He promises himself that he will kill Sun Fei with his bare hands, making sure that the manipulative idol pays for his sins. The scene changes to the protagonist standing in a vast otherworldly space, a large hall filled with imposing mirrors that shine with an ethereal glow. He explains that this is the profession selection hall, a crucial place where players choose their path in the game of the gods. In his past life, he spent hours there, overwhelmed by nerves and uncertainty, but now, with the wisdom of his previous experiences, he moves with purpose and confidence. This time, he knows exactly what he needs. Reflecting on her past choices, she remembers choosing the warrior class to protect her younger sister. Although the warrior class was not weak, it no longer fits their current goals. Without the burden of protecting another person, he realizes that speed and mobility are essential. With that in mind, reach out to one of the imposing mirrors and select the assassin class. When his fingers touch the glass, a bright blue light envelops his hand, and a window of the system materializes in front of him. The system announces that the Eye of Judgment artifact is already linked to it and will be activated immediately. Behind him, a colossal otherworldly eye materializes, its gaze penetrating and omnipotent. Another system window appears, revealing that the protagonist possesses unique attributes, the power of judgment and the power passive. The system explains that these attributes give it incomparable advantages. By entering the game of the gods, you will automatically receive the profession and talents of the highest quality, placing you far above ordinary players. A smile crosses the protagonist's face as he admires the power of the Eye of Judgment. He speculates that the artifacts linked to him persisted even through its rebirth. Could it be the Eye of Judgment really recognized him as his teacher? If so, that would make the artifact useless to anyone else, even if they tried to steal it from him, as Sun Fei and his sister did in their past life. He even wonders if the Eye of Judgment was responsible for his rebirth, granting him the second chance to rewrite his destiny. Suddenly, a gloomy and turbulent aura begins to infiltrate his body, taking him by surprise. The system congratulates him, announcing that he has unlocked a hidden profession. The class transfer process begins, and the dark aura completely envelops him. When it dissipates, the protagonist emerges transformed. His black hair is now completely white, and an overwhelming aura radiates from him, signaling his newfound power. The system reports that he has become a deadly shadow, a high-level hidden assassin class, far superior to the warrior class he chose in his past life. The protagonist explains that the shadow class grants immense power immediately after being unlocked, making it a rare and coveted profession. He touches his face, reflecting on his incredible luck, or perhaps on the fate that led him to this moment. When selecting a profession, there is always a small chance of getting a hidden class. Thanks to his skillful authority of judgment, that small possibility became a certainty. The system then details some of the abilities granted by the Eye of Judgment. The first is the authority of judgment, described as the oldest and most primordial authority in the universe. It transcends the rules and order that govern reality itself. However, the system clarifies that, without divinity, the protagonist cannot actively wield all his power. Even so, its passive effects remain active, providing you with an extraordinary advantage. The protagonist is visibly surprised by this revelation. In his past life, only in the 7th year of the Game of the Gods, mankind discovered the existence of the power of order. A powerful individual managed to escape the game world and reach the land of order, revealing the existence of this transcendental force. However, despite years of attempts, no one ever managed to get it. Now, the protagonist realizes that he possesses the original authority that overrides rules and order, a power capable of reshaping the very structure of reality. With a determined expression, he acknowledges that his goals now go beyond mere revenge. If he manages to escape the game of the gods and reach the land of order, obtaining divinity along the way, he will be able to fully activate the authority of judgment. Suddenly, a system screen appears in front of him, with a bright text that requires him to enter a pseudonym to be known in the game. After a moment of contemplation, he chooses a name that reflects his new identity, Sato. It's an appropriate choice, he thinks, given that his profession was born out of obscurity itself. As soon as he confirms the name, the system recognizes him, and a gloomy aura begins to spin. To look around, the system announces that you are about to enter the game world, the land abandoned by the gods. Then, he details the grim reality of this world, a ruined land, infested with countless monsters spreading destruction everywhere. He warns that these creatures are ruthless, and will not make any efforts to kill him and steal his life. The system also explains that when you leave the initial city and start killing monsters, you will get negotiable life, a valuable resource. However, death in the game has a severe cost. If you die, half of your life, both the negotiable and the non-negotiable, it will be reduced. The stakes are high, but the protagonist is unfazed. The scene changes upon arrival at the initial village, a place known as Shell City. The system reports that this is a peace zone, a sanctuary where monsters cannot enter and players are forbidden to attack each other. Here, the rate of loss of life is minimal, fixed at 1x. The protagonist looks around, noticing the chaos, while the other players, newly dragged into the game, try to understand their situation. They mumble in confusion, wondering how they ended up there. Many people remember falling asleep only to wake up in the living room, profession selection, not knowing what nightmare they had been thrown into. The protagonist, however, remains focused. He watches the crowd, aware of how quickly the game attracted so many people. He knows that, in a short time, powerful individuals from various countries will emerge, trying to shape the world in its own way. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, you need to act fast. While walking around the city, her striking appearance attracts attention. His custom-made outfits and the somber aura emanating from him set him apart from the other players. Whispers run through the crowd, speculating about his profession. One player, also an assassin, recognizes the dagger in his waistband, but is perplexed by the huge difference between them. While the other killer has no distinctive aura, the protagonist exudes an air of power and mystery. The contrast is obvious, and that only increases the curiosity of the viewers. As he nears the exit of the initial city, a group of players appears before him, their faces pale and altered. It seems that death in the game does not mean the end. Instead, the players are transported back to the safety of Shell City. The group consists of 3 men and 1 woman, clearly frustrated as they complain about a recent encounter with a level 1 tracker monster. One of the men laments that a single bite from the creature reduced his life by half, while another complains that their combined efforts barely managed to take away a third of the monster's life. The third man is visibly shattered, his confidence destroyed afterwards. After their life is cut in half, they turn to the woman, who seems to be the leader of the group, for guidance on what to do next. Before she can answer, her eyes fall on the protagonist. He, on the other hand, is watching her carefully. Unlike the others, she wields a longbow instead. From the standardized short bow to the archers. This detail does not go unnoticed by him, and he deduces that he must possess a hidden profession, a rare and powerful advantage. Intrigued by the protagonist's imposing presence and unique appearance, the woman approaches him with a proposal. He suggests that they unite, arguing that the monsters outside are too strong to face them alone. As your group has already had an encounter with a monster, albeit unsuccessfully, they have some experience to share. The protagonist, however, can't help but smile wryly at this justification. The only experience this group has, he thinks, is to die politely, but he firmly rejects the offer, stating that he prefers to work in the sun. His refusal leaves the woman shocked, and the men in the group begin to mutter to each other. They question his arrogance, wondering how anyone can believe that he can deal with monsters alone, when not even 4 people together could. Despite the skepticism of the group, the woman feels that there is something more to the protagonist than he appears. Determined to discover her secret, she decides to check her status window. Her eyes widen as she reads the pseudonym, Sato. He lets out a skeptical laugh, finding the name pretentious, but he can't get rid of it. Get the feeling that he is hiding something important. Turning to his group, he announces that they will follow the protagonist and observe his abilities. Perhaps, he speculates, he has discovered some valuable information about the monsters he is keeping secret. With a malicious smile, he adds that he can't wait to see how he performs or how he falls. While the protagonist walks confidently towards the exit of Ciudad Concha, the blonde girl and her companions follow him stealthily. Their movements careful and calculated. They hide behind a tree, their eyes fixed on the receding figure. The blonde girl, her voice tinged with frustration, mutters to her team about how strange and dangerous this god-forsaken world is. She admits that she still does not fully understand why they were dragged into this nightmare, but, as an experienced player, she quickly put together a team to face the challenges that await them. Still, even with his experience, he did not anticipate how brutally the game would humiliate them. The first monster they encountered outside the initial village wiped them out effortlessly, a clear reminder of how unprepared they were. He concludes that such a monster is far beyond the capabilities of any level 1 player. Meanwhile, the 2 men on his team can't help but speculate about the protagonist. One of them, a murderer like him, points out the marked differences between the 2. While he wields a standard dagger, the protagonist carries a short sword, a weapon that exudes lethality. The killer also notes that the protagonist's speed is visibly older and that her clothes are unlike anything they've seen before, custom-made and radiating an aura of power. The blonde girl, observing these details, cannot get rid of the feeling that the protagonist is an anomaly. He decides to follow him discreetly, hoping to get valuable information that can give him an advantage to his group. However, just as he is about to signal for his team to approach, the protagonist suddenly stops and looks over his shoulder. The blonde girl freezes, her heart racing, wondering if he has noticed them. Before he can react, the protagonist activates an ability. Latent image. A gloomy aura envelops his body and, in an instant, disappears into thin air as if he had never been there. The group watches in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process what they have just witnessed. The killer of the group is the first to recover, explaining that the protagonist must have used the stealth skill, a basic technique for assassins. Still, he admits that the protagonist's version is much more impressive than anything he's seen before. The blonde girl, shocked but determined, concludes that following him is no longer an option. He suggests returning to the safety of the initial village to group up and explore other ways to level up. He reminds his team that leaving the initial village is extremely dangerous, especially since their lives have already been cut in half after their first death. Men agree, speculating that the village might contain hidden rewards, such as treasure chests or NPCs with valuable information, holding on to the hope that there is still a way to become stronger without risking their lives. Meanwhile, the system provides an explanation about the skill that the protagonist has just used. Latent image allows the user to enter a state of invisibility, becoming undetectable to both enemies and allies. While he is invisible, his first attack after coming out of stealth mode is significantly more powerful. In addition, the Master of Invisibility skill doubles the duration of stealth and increases the user's stealth level by 1 point. The protagonist himself is satisfied with the effectiveness of his shadow class abilities. Unlike ordinary assassins, whose stealth can be easily detected at level 1. Their unique abilities ensure that neither players nor monsters can perceive their presence in the early stages of the game. While walking away from the girl, Rubia and her team, the protagonist dismisses them as naive fools. He knows that the initial village offers no shortcuts to power. It is only a temporary refuge in a world where the weak are nothing but prey for monsters. His focus remains steadfast as he continues on his way, until his invisibility finally dissipates. Note that, despite the short duration of the ability, the cooldown starts the instant it is activated, allowing it to disappear again in a matter of seconds. A system screen appears in front of him, showing his current status, his code, shadow, and his profession. Shadow are highlighted, both at level 1. It has a non-negotiable life expectancy of 75 years and a negotiable life expectancy of 0 years. His attributes are as follows: Strength, 10 points, plus 3 bonus. Constitution, 10 points, plus 3 bonus. Agility, 10 points, plus 8 bonus. Spirit, 10 points, plus 5 bonus. The protagonist explains that all players start with 10 points in each attribute, with bonus points distributed according to the chosen profession. In his past life as a warrior, he only received 3 bonus points in strength and constitution. This time, however, the shadow class grants him bonuses on all attributes, with agility receiving a particularly high increase of 8 points. Another system window pops up, informing that you have 5 free attribute points to distribute. The protagonist stops to consider his options. He knows that many players prioritize strength or spirit at the beginning, hoping to increase their physical power or magical abilities. However, he dismisses this approach as fundamentally wrong. In a world where a single attack from a monster can be fatal, brute force means nothing without speed to avoid damage. With this in mind, assign the 5 points to agility, raising it to 10 points with a total of 13 bonus. The system confirms the distribution and the protagonist feels a surge of satisfaction. He explains that agility is the key to survival in the early stages of the game. No matter how much is invested in strength or spirit, a single blow from a monster can seal someone's fate. By maximizing his speed, he can outrun his enemies and attack without taking damage. As he moves forward, his acute senses pick up a faint guttural sound. He pauses, squinting as he examines the area in front of him. There, lurking in the shadows, is a grotesque creature, a level 1 crawler. Its classification is normal according to the system. The twisted shape of the monster and the chilling sounds it emits make the air become heavier, but the protagonist remains calm. He recognizes the creature as the same one that annihilated the blonde girl's group earlier. Their body bears the marks of their futile struggle, wounds that indicate that they managed to cause some damage before being exterminated. The crawler, perceiving the presence of the protagonist, advances against him with a guttural growl. However, the protagonist does not back down. He dodges the attack with grace and ease. His movements flow with precision. As he dodges, he explains that crawlers are known for their insatiable hunger for life force. When a player is killed, they absorb their life expectancy, using it to become stronger and evolve. The wounds on the crawler's body are proof that the blonde girl's group fought with all their might, but their efforts only delayed the inevitable. With a quick flick of the wrist, the protagonist unsheathes his short sword. A dark aura begins to emanate from his body. His eyes glow a menacing red as he activates his latent image skill. In an instant, he disappears from sight, leaving the crawler confused and disoriented. The creature growls, turning its head from side to side, as it searches for its elusive prey. Without him noticing, the protagonist is already on him, ready to attack. He deactivates his stealth the moment he descends, his blade slicing through the air with lethal precision. This technique, known as stealth breaking strike, takes advantage of the increased attack power granted by the latent image skill. Dealing a devastating blow, the system immediately confirms the success of the attack. A screen materializes, showing the damage inflicted. An impressive 174 points. The level 1 crawler collapses, his lifeless body dissolving into energy. The protagonist gains 10 experience points, but even he is momentarily surprised by the extent of the damage he inflicted. He was expecting a powerful attack, but this level of destruction exceeded all his expectations. The system explains that his backstabbing skill played a crucial role. When an enemy is attacked out of his field of vision, the damage is doubled, turning the protagonist into lethal predator. As he assimilates the implications of this skill, memories of his past life flood his mind. He remembers the hard battles he faced as a warrior, where a critical strike caused only 40 points of damage. Defeating a single crawler was a titanic task, leaving him exhausted and injured. Back then, her focus was on protecting her baby sister, sacrificing her own growth to ensure her safety. It would be most of the rewards for her, constantly weakening. But now, things are different. This time, he fights for himself, and the results speak for themselves. The system reports his rewards: 3 days of marketable life, and an incredible 54 years. And 155 days of life not marketed. The protagonist crushes the monster's energy in his hand, savoring the surge of power, but the rewards don't end there. Another system window appears, announcing that the Judgment Authority has been activated. The system congratulates him on getting the evolutionary talent. Infinite Evolution, a rare and powerful ability. This talent allows him to earn evolution points by killing monsters in solo mode, which can be used to improve his skills. In addition, you will automatically receive 5 evolution points every 24 hours, with the possibility of earning 100% of the evolution points when defeating bosses alone. He currently has 5 evolution points. While processing this information, a thought crosses your mind. Is it possible that the infinite evolution skill can improve his existing abilities? In his past life, such a concept was unthinkable. No matter the level of the item a monster dropped, whether it was a piece of equipment or a skill book, it always remained at its original level. That was the established rule of the game. However, the infinite evolution skill defies those same rules, transcending the limits of order. The sheer potential of this skill arouses his curiosity. Eager to test his limits, he selects 2 of his current skills, backstabbing and his shady profession, to undergo evolution. The moment you make your choice, a system notification appears, confirming the consumption of 4 evolution points, and the successful improvement of your skills. The first improvement is in the shadow profession, now elevated to the bronze category. The improvements are impressive. It can stay in stealth mode for 12 to 16 seconds, becoming completely invisible, even when attacking. In addition, the attack power of the stealth breaking strike has been increased from 60 to 80, while the reload time has been reduced from 28 to 26 seconds. Then, his backstabbing skill progresses from poor quality to normal. Its passive effect now increases damage by 15% when attacking from behind or out of the enemy's field of view, up from 10%. Previous percent. Sensing the impact of these improvements, he notices that the duration of his latent image skill has increased to 16 seconds. Combined with the invisibility mastery effect, this duration is effectively doubled to 32 seconds, allowing you to achieve an almost continuous state of stealth. If he had obtained this upgrade earlier, he muses, even a fully alive crawler could have been eliminated with a single blow. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a mocking voice, doubting that someone as thin as him could have killed a monster on his own. Turning to the origin of the voice, he sees 2 people. A muscular man trying to impress a girl. The girl calls him Gandhi, enthusiastically praising him, and confidently stating that, with his physique, he could easily take on at least 10 monsters at the same time. Gandhi laughs and reassures her that she has nothing to fear as long as he is around. Observing the interaction, the protagonist notices that something is wrong. A shadow is cast over them, and he realizes that a huge spider-like monster is lurking in the treetop where Gandhi and the girl are. Oblivious to the imminent danger, Ganji turns to the protagonist and makes him an offer. He should join the group as Ganji would protect him. But the protagonist is already on the move. Recognizing the monstrous creature as a nurse, he does not hesitate. activates his latent image ability, and disappears into invisibility. The girl gasps, pointing out the sudden disappearance of the protagonist. Gandhi shrugs, and lets out a smug laugh, stating that the weakling must have been intimidated by his overwhelming strength. But his arrogance doesn't last long. Before he can react, the huge spider jumps on them, followed by a second, smaller spider. By the time Ganji senses the danger, it's too late. The creatures attack, crushing him along with the girl in an instant. The system identifies the monstrous aggressors: the nurse, a level 1 bronze rarity boss, and her companion, a baby spider, an ordinary level 1 creature. Nearby, still shrouded in invisibility, the protagonist calmly assesses the situation. The nurse is a formidable foe with approximately 1,600 HP, far more than a newbie can face, especially considering she commands an entire swarm of smaller spiders. However, he sees this as the perfect opportunity to put his recent skills to the test. 100 improved. Without hesitation, he lunges at the nurse, executing a blow designed to break her invisibility and maximize her damage. Her blade hits the target, and the nurse recoils, blood gushing from the wound. In retaliation, the creature launches a powerful attack, but the protagonist quickly dodges, sliding down under his leg. Without wasting time, he reactivates his latent image ability, disappearing once more into the shadows. A system notification pops up, confirming that he dealt 338 damage, a solid hit, but still insufficient against such a formidable opponent. Another message indicates that he suffered 9 points of damage, a minor setback. Considering his agility and his barely 130 HP, he knows that a direct confrontation would be disastrous. Still, he can't help but be impressed with the brute strength of his improved attack. Causing more than 300 points of damage in a single hit is an exciting thing. Frustrated with the invisible threat, the nurse erupts into a rage, unleashing a violent onslaught on the surroundings. In a desperate attempt to fight back, the protagonist watches carefully, aware that these creatures are not irrational. They adapt and fight back. The battle is far from over, but he's more than ready to test how far his newfound strength can take him. Soon, he realizes that the nurse is attacking blindly in all directions, making a direct attack too risky. In addition, the smallest spider is also alert. A frontal assault is out of the question. Instead, he decides to try a new approach. When the nurse starts throwing the spiders at you to escape, a high-speed stone hits her abdomen, opening a big hole. A system notification confirms that the attack caused 299 points of damage. The protagonist explains his strategy, taking advantage of the extra damage by breaking invisibility, uses his enhanced abilities to transform thrown objects into legitimate attacks. Since the system recognizes the stones as valid attacks, each throw is as effective as a direct hit. Without hesitation, he throws another stone, confident that, as soon as the recharge time of his ability is over, he will be able to repeat the cycle indefinitely. Soon, another system notification confirms a new hit, dealing 279 damage. Using this tactic repeatedly, it weakens the nurse systematically. It's not long before an announcement resonates throughout the initial village, Cell Town. The leaderboard has been updated. The system declares that a player named Sato has defeated the nurse, a bronze rarity monster, becoming the first player to reach level 2. His name is transmitted throughout the village, and with this, the ranking of Cell Town is officially open. The other players remain incredulous. Many remember being killed by the nurse several times, making it inconceivable that a single player managed to defeat her alone. Murmurs spread as players search for information about this mysterious Sato. Some suspect an exploit, while others look at the classification, stunned to see only one name listed. Among the surprised spectators is the blonde girl from earlier, along with her team. She struggles to understand how a level 1 player managed to defeat a monster boss alone. Even ordinary monsters are already a challenge for them, and even so, Sadhu beat a creature of bronze rarity. Doubt begins to grow in his mind. Was there an error in the system? Danny and his partner, the same ones who died before the nurse, are equally perplexed. They fail to understand how someone could defeat the giant spider, while also dealing with his swarm of minions. The girl suddenly remembers the hooded boy they had despised earlier. He could be Sadhu. Back to the protagonist, a system notification appears confirming his victory over the nurse. He has gained 300 experience points, reached level 2 and received 2 evolution points. In addition, He has unlocked the Cell Town level ranking and gained a reputation point. The whole village has been informed of his feat. When the nurse's body dissolves into energy, he remarks that, once the boss is defeated, the remaining spiders flee in terror. However, he regrets not having eliminated them first, thus losing valuable experience points. Another system notification pops up, revealing your new rewards. 46 days of transferable life. A bronze tier skill book called The Hand of Greed. A dagger of corrosion. A bronze tier weapon that increases attack power by 35 points and grants an additional 4 agility. In addition, he gains 2 more evolution points. Intrigued by the Hand of Greed, he focuses on the skill book. The system explains that this is an exclusive ability for assassins, allowing the user to extract additional rewards from the bodies of monsters with a 20% success rate. The only requirement is that the player has at least level 1. He marvels at his unexpected luck. Who could have imagined that a bronze rarity boss would drop such a rare and powerful ability? This skill could drastically increase your rate of obtaining. Team. He recalls a player from his past life, God of Sin, who, despite his mediocre combat skills, became one of the most renowned figures in the game solely thanks to the Hand of Greed. His influence grew so much that he even had a group of exclusive bodyguards. Suddenly, a realization hits the protagonist. If the Hand of Greed has a 20% success rate, what would happen if he combined it with his infinitely evolving talent? Theoretically, it could not only increase the chances of success, but also increase the amount of loot obtained. The thought fills him with expectation. The scene changes to the real world, where students are on their way to school. Among them are the protagonist's younger sister and her friend. As they walk together, the friend encourages her to call her brother and apologize. She reminds him that they missed an important exam the day before, to secretly support Sun Fei, and that his brother must be furious. However, the younger sister dismisses the idea, insisting that she did nothing wrong, and that she sees no reason to apologize. In his vision, if anyone made a mistake, it was his brother, as his interference prevented them from seeing Song Fei's entrance. If anyone should apologize, it should be him. Her friend tries to make her understand, pointing out how her brother has always been good to her. He even admits to feeling envious of her for having such an attentive brother. But the younger sister coldly orders him to stop messing around, bluntly stating that he is not even her real brother. He declares that he already has a brother, Sun Fei. Upon arriving at the school, they notice a commotion in their classroom. A group of students has gathered around a table, mumbling, anxious and curious. They approach only to witness a disturbing scene. One of his classmates, MANHUA, is slumped over on his table, his body slowly disappearing. The bread is spread when a girl, alarmed by what she sees, asks what's going on with Gui. Another student explains that, moments before, Gui just said he wanted to take a nap, and then he started to fade away. Murmurs run through the crowd, and some students reveal that Gui is not the only one experiencing this phenomenon. Social networks are flooded with similar cases all over the world. Reports indicate that when people fall asleep, they enter a translucent illusory state, but no one knows the reason. Fear takes hold of the students when a girl hurriedly picks up her phone, determined to call her parents to warn them. He insists that the protagonist's sister do the same and inform her brother, but the younger sister, still resentful, stubbornly refuses. She furiously declares that she has no intention of contacting him and that she hates him, going so far as to say that the world would be better if he were dead. Meanwhile, back in the game world, the system confirms that the evolution of the Hand of Greed skill has been completed. The skill has advanced from bronze level to gold level. The system explains that the success rate for getting additional loot has increased from 20% to an impressive 70%. A new notification appears, confirming that the protagonist has successfully learned the Hand of Greed and has gained 2 additional evolution points, in addition to an impressive 46 days of transferable life. He can't help but marvel at his luck. Not only has he gained extra evolution points, but now he's just 1 point away from evolving the Hand of Greed again. If he reaches 3 evolution points, he will be able to take the skill to its maximum level, guaranteeing a 100% success rate for additional loot. Just the thought already fills him with excitement. His path to power is moving faster than he ever imagined. Activating his latent image ability, the protagonist disappears into invisibility, his thoughts running. By now, every country in the world must have noticed the strange phenomenon of people falling asleep, and never waking up. It's only a matter of time before a huge amount of players come in the game, and he needs to stay ahead of the competition. Your priority is to make sure you get better equipment, which will give you an advantage before the others catch up with you. A system notification confirms that he has successfully equipped the corroded dagger, a bronze-level weapon. That increases his attack power by 34 points and his agility in 4. He reflects that soon, people will realize that the skills and equipment of the game can be transferred to reality. When that happens, the world will be plunged into chaos. Remember that for extraction to be possible, 2 conditions must be met: reaching level 10 and accumulate enough transferable life. Checking his status window, he realizes that simply killing monsters will not be enough. The process is too slow. If he really wants to speed up his progress, he needs to hunt more powerful boss monsters. His thoughts are interrupted by the distant sounds of a combat. Following the noise, he moves to the edge of a cliff, peeking to assess the situation below. Down there, a group of players is waging a battle against the Racer, a level 2 and bronze class monster that seems to be dominating them. A smile appears on his face. Just when he was about to lose focus, an opportunity presents itself in front of him. His gaze sharpens as he recognizes one of the fighters, Wang Meng. I didn't expect to find him there, but the rumors about Wang Meng seem to have foundation. According to the speculations, when Wang Meng entered the Forgotten Game of Gods for the first time, he gathered a team of 6 players, each with a hidden profession. As the fight unfolds, Wang Meng activates his Holy Barrier ability, summoning a golden shield to protect himself from the runner's incessant attacks. The protagonist watches in silence, noticing that Wang Meng's hidden profession, Warrior of the Sacred Shield, grants him twice the basic attributes of an ordinary warrior, in addition to an invincibility skill. The scene changes when a red-haired maid advances, channeling a powerful fireball spell. The projectile hits the runner, but the damage caused is only 70 points. The protagonist recognizes her as an arcane prophetess, a hidden class that doubles the damage of spells and grants access to the prophetic fireball ability. Then, his attention turns to an archer and a priest within the group. The archer, wielding a longbow, is a sharp-eyed archer, possessing twice the attributes of a standard archer, and the ability to shoot continuous arrows. Meanwhile, the priest, an oracle priest, has twice the healing abilities of an ordinary priest, and starts with a powerful group healing ability. Despite the constant bombardment of the archer and the prophetess' magic attack, the runner is simply too fast, easily dodging her attacks. The battle takes an unexpected turn when the monster lands a devastating blow on Wang Meng, breaking his sacred barrier and throwing him backwards. As Wang Meng struggles to recover, the archer expresses his frustration. The speed of the runner makes it almost impossible to hit an attack from a distance. Receiving healing from the oracle priest, Wang Meng stands firm. If they continue with the strategy, attacking while he is in charge of tanking, and the priest provides support, they will eventually win. Watching from above, the protector, the protagonist smiles at Wang Meng's optimism. His strategy may work in theory, but this is a battlefield. The longer the fight goes on, the greater the chance of attracting unwanted attention. Almost as if it were an omen, shadowy figures emerge from the shadows. The protagonist squints as he notices a new threat approaching. Polluters, common level 2 monsters covered in a thick, dark brown slime, specialized in ranged attacks. Wang Meng's expression changed to one of concern as the monster advanced. One of his companions ran to the front, warning him of the imminent danger. The player brandished a massive sword at the polluters, but, to everyone's surprise, the attack barely left a mark, causing a mere 33 points of damage. Watching carefully, the interest of the protagonist was aroused. This team possessed hidden professions that I had never encountered before. However, despite their unique abilities, even they seemed to have difficulties against these creatures. When the polluter launched his counterattack, he expelled a sticky slime similar to mud from his mouth, trapping the players on the spot. Wang Meng's companions backed up and began to complain about the unbearable stench, immobilized. His movement speed dropped to 0. Meanwhile, another polluter was tirelessly chasing the reddish-haired magician, who was frantically running for help. At that moment, the protagonist decided to intervene. Without warning, he disappeared from the top of the hill. A moment later, the monster that was chasing the mage was decapitated with a single blow. Wang Mang and his team were silent, stunned. They were struggling to process what had just happened. Had a polluter really been defeated in one fell swoop? The monster's body dissolved into loot, while the mage, doubtful, asked if anyone was helping them. Freed from the polluter's trap, the swordsman marveled at the impossible feat. Even a level 1 tracker monster would normally require a concentrated attack for more than 10 seconds to be defeated. However, there was a level 2 polluter being obliterated instantly. Before they could react, another polluter was brought down with a single blow. The attack causing an impressive 441 points of damage. In a panic, the swordsman turned to the magician, Lizzie, and asked her if she had seen the attacker, but she denied. With her head confused, Wang Meng quickly regained his composure and gathered his team. He ordered them to stay focused, recognizing that although their invisible ally was helping them, they still needed to fight. Meanwhile, the protagonist, still invisible, quietly positioned himself on a tree behind Wang Men. When the team turned their attention to the corridor, Wang Men noticed that, with the polluters removed, their only remaining enemy was the corridor itself. At that moment, a system screen appeared before the protagonist, confirming that he had eliminated 2 Tier 2 polluters, earning 40 points. Points of experience and a point of evolution. In addition, the system notified that he had acquired a new skill book, Poison Dart, an entry-level assassin standard skill. Along with it, he also got 8 days of transferable life. Looking at the system screen, the protagonist reflected on the Poison Dart skill. It was a medium to long-range attack that dealt continuous damage, an exceptionally useful skill for an assassin. Without hesitation, he decided to evolve it immediately. A new system screen appeared, showing Poison Dart's enhanced attributes. The skill had evolved from the normal rank to the silver rank. The system detailed its improvements. It could now be thrown up to a distance of 14 meters, causing an attack-based damage of 120 on impact. In addition, it instantly dealt a poison state to the target, dealing 50% continuous damage per second for 5 seconds. Although the effect could not stack, the skill had a cooldown time of only 5 seconds, and required the user to be at least level 2 to learn it. The protagonist smiled at his new power. With this ability, he could incapacitate enemies before they realized what hit them. Wang Meng's battle was turning into a nightmare. The monster racer completely dominated him, his speed and strength surpassing him in every aspect. When Wang Meng raised the shield to block, the creature's claws tore through its side, piercing its flesh with brutal precision. Before he could recover, the beast attacked again. His claws sank even deeper into his body, lifting him off the ground as if he were a rag doll. His shield fell with a crash to the ground, and a cry of agony escaped his lips. His companions watched in horror as the healer ran to try to heal him, but without success. With the monster's claws still buried in his flesh, the healing magic had no effect. Blood gushed out of Wang Meng's mouth as he gathered strength to order his team to flee. But before they could react, a high-speed projectile sliced through the air, directly hitting the monster's face. With devastating force, the impact dealt an impressive 845 points of damage, causing the creature to recoil in pain. The one-man teammates were shocked to see the monster boss's health bar collapse in half in a matter of seconds. However, the attack was far from over. Blood was gushing from the wound, an incessant torrent that further weakened the creature. He twisted violently before finally releasing Wang Mei, whose injured body collapsed on the ground. Desperate to survive, he tried to crawl to safety, but the monster continued to howl, his condition getting worse with every second. His life was draining away at a steady rate of 324 points per second, until, finally, the beast fell to the ground, succumbing to the relentless damage. At that moment, a system screen appeared before the protagonist, showing the results of his attack. The damage it dealt accounted for more than 90% of the monster boss's total health, securing him full rights to the loot. The system recognized his victory, announcing that he had eliminated a racer boss, a bronze-level creature, gaining 600 experience points. A second notification congratulated him on reaching level 3 and rewarded him with 2 evolution points and 55 days of transferable life. Standing, with an aura of absolute mastery, the protagonist evaluates the result. He didn't expect Poison Dart's continuous damage effect to work so perfectly in conjunction with his stealth and mechanical abilities. of class? The realization hit him. By taking advantage of his stealth abilities, he could remain invisible indefinitely, throwing poison darts non-stop. That strategy, he reflected, would make him an unstoppable force in the initial and intermediate stages of the game, ensuring that no monster could face. Meanwhile, Wang Meg was still in a state of shock, watching as the monster boss dissolved into loot before his eyes. The pain of being impaled was so unbearable, so disturbingly real, that for a moment, he wondered if this was really a game. His ramblings were interrupted when, almost instantly, the loot disappeared before him, stolen in the blink of an eye. It was the work of the elusive aura farmer, moving so fast that Wang Meg didn't even see him. Struggling to get up, Wang Meg lowered her head in gratitude. He admitted that he did not know who had saved them, but thanked from the shadows. The protagonist's voice echoed, keeping his identity hidden. He warned that others should not be trusted so easily, especially in a desert like that. Wang Mega felt, absorbing the lesson. He replied that he understood and appreciated the reminder. Then, she claimed that she wouldn't bother him, while she checked his loot, and introduced herself. His name was Wang Mega. If I ever needed help, I should not hesitate to ask for it. Meanwhile, Wang Meg's fellow survivors hugged each other in relief, overcome with emotion at having overcome such a terrible ordeal. Returning to the protagonist, he remained silent, holding the loot orb in his life. His hands, contemplating his next step, recognized that Wang Meg was not only a reliable and capable ally, but also someone with the official support by day, which made him someone extremely well-connected and wealthy. That insight gave him an idea. He needed a stable sales channel to get rid of surplus equipment and items that he did not need. Activating the greed hand on the loot, a system notification appeared before him, congratulating him on getting 3 evolution points and 55 more days of transferable life. In addition to those rewards, he also acquired a bronze-level item, the Agile Leather Leggings. The system detailed its benefits. Equipping that item would increase its physical defense by 9 points, improve all elemental resistances by 5 points, and reduce recharge time by 15%. The only requirement was to be in level 2, something I had already passed. Evaluating his current inventory, he realized that his harvest had been exceptional, and his backpack was filled with equipment of various kinds. He decided that, as soon as his backpack reached the maximum capacity, he would return to Ciudad Concha to exchange the surplus equipment for more transferable life. With a cold and calculating gaze, he recognized that his current growth rate far exceeded the progress of his previous life. A sinister smile crossed his face as he muttered to himself that Sonic would be getting a notice soon. The scene then changed to a group of players fighting polluters and runner-type monsters. Their situation was desperate, with the creatures surrounding them on all sides. One of the players, realizing that there was no hope, urged his companions to flee before more monsters approached. However, before they could even attempt to escape, they froze in sheer terror. A gigantic monstrosity emerged before them, its grotesque form emanating an oppressive and threatening aura. Before they could react, the creature launched a brutal attack. Parts of his body shot out like arrows, piercing the players with relentless speed and killing them instantly. Moments later, the players reappeared in the initial village, Shell City, having been forced to resurface. Frustration got the better of them as they cursed against fate, lamenting the unfairness of the game. They wondered why the monsters always appeared in relentless groups and fled just when their life was about to end, demonstrating a level. The intelligence alarmist, one of the resurgent players, raised a troubling question. How could they get out of the game if they didn't even manage to reach level 3? Another player explained the harsh reality. The only way to get out of the game was to reach level 3. This meant that they needed to move up from level 3 quickly. One of them suggested forming a larger group, maybe 6 to 10 players, to facilitate progress. However, another immediately dismissed the idea, revealing that he had already witnessed a group of 10 being slaughtered by a massive horde of monsters. A third player intervened, warned. I understand that too large a team will attract the attention of monstrous bosses. He told a terrifying story. He had just seen a group of 40 players accidentally summon a boss known as the Cursed One, who finished off 30 of them with a single devastating ability. Elsewhere, a blonde girl and her team also resurfaced in the Shell City. Frustration and fear were stamped on their faces. If they failed to reach level 3, they would be trapped in the game indefinitely. The blonde girl clenched her fists and gnashed her teeth, expressing her growing despair. He theorized that since everyone had entered into the game after falling asleep, only their consciousnesses were present there. If they did not manage to escape, their bodies in the real world would end up succumbing to hunger. Just imagining this possibility sent a shiver down his spine. One of his companions, a murderer, spoke with a worried expression. Remembering that they had already died 3 times, and had less than 10 years of transferable life left. Before he could finish the sentence, the blonde girl interrupted him with a firm tone. Dying again was simply not an option. At that moment, the Shell City ranking system flashed in the air. Showing the current ranking of the players, their eyes widened in disbelief. At the top of the list was the mysterious Shadow Boy, the protagonist, who had already reached level 3. He was followed by Wang Meg and Bala, both still struggling to reach level 1. The blonde girl's mind sped up. How were you leveling up so fast? There was a method, something he knew and they didn't. Determination flashed in his eyes as he made a bold decision. If that enigmatic player knew a way to level up quickly, they needed to find a way to convince him to help them reach level 3. Clenching his little fists, he gave an order to his team, spread the news. If the Shadow Boy could help them reach level 3 and get out of the game, she would personally pay him 10 million in money when they returned to the real world. She cuffed a confident smile, sure that no one would refuse an offer. So tempting. The scene then turned back to the protagonist, who was removing pollutants with his shadow poison skill effortlessly. When another monster fell, a system notification appeared, confirming the death of a level 2 polluter, and granting him 20 experience points, in addition to a of evolution. Accumulating enough points immediately began the evolution, hand in hand with greed. A confirmation screen appeared, deducting 5 evolution points, and reducing his remaining balance to 0. Then, another screen appeared detailing the improvement. The hand of greed rose from the platinum level to the hard level. The system elaborated on its new capabilities. The ability could now be used on monster corpses, significantly increasing the success rate in obtaining extra serve. From 110% to 160%. In addition, there is now a 20% chance that the rarity of the extra serve will increase by 1 level. Observing the changes, the protagonist assessed the immense potential for improvement. A skill capable of increasing the rarity of the serve has an extraordinary value, and if this trend continues, the effect could eventually reach an even higher level. As soon as he reflected on his new advantage, his attention was attracted by an ominous presence in the distance. A grotesque and imposing figure emerged, the same entity responsible for annihilating an entire group of players. The recognition was immediate when the system identified her as a bronze-level boss, the Cursed One. The creature was hunched over, greedily absorbing clusters of bright blue energy, remnants of fallen players. Analyzing the scene, the protagonist quickly deduced that the monster was in the process of evolution, feeding on the vital energy. To ascend to a silver-level boss, judging by the amount of shiny debris it should have annihilated, rented to at least 40 players. A quick glance at his inventory revealed a frustrating reality. His backpack was already full. Even if he managed to defeat the monster, there would be no room to collect any serves. This situation required a calculated approach. After weighing his options, he marked the location on the map. The evolution of the monster would take time, giving him a perfect opportunity to return to the initial city and get rid of unnecessary items before facing him again. With his decision made, he activated the Shadow Elite ability and disappeared into the darkness. The scene changed to Cell Town, an early village where a group of players were stunned at a bold announcement. A blonde girl offered the impressive sum of 10 million in money to the highest-ranked player in the ranking, hoping to find a way to level up. In the middle of the crowd, a desperate girl began to cry, lamenting that ordinary people like her have no hope of escaping from this game. Her sobs were abruptly interrupted when she was dragged away, reinforcing the harsh reality everyone was facing. Amidst the murmurs and tension, the atmosphere suddenly changed. An overwhelming aura of domination swept through the crowd, and all eyes turned to the newcomer. He is no one less than our protagonist. His simple presence exudes a raw power, leaving everyone speechless. Without saying a single word, open the system window and navigate to the sales function. In an instant, a colossal system notification appears above him, announcing that he has set up a shop selling equipment and skills. The message also informs that the store will be active for only 10 minutes, prompting players to act quickly. Sitting with a calm and serene posture, the protagonist exhibits a collection of glowing orbs, the booties of countless battles. Panic spreads among the assembled players, their voices rising in confusion and amazement. Some wonder when he arrived, while others are surprised to see him casually wearing 2 sets of bronze equipment, with even more to sell. Then, the realization hits them when they check your username. He is Adu, the legendary #1 player. However, despite his fame, no one can see his face. A mystery explained by the game's face-hiding feature. A player observes that since the appearances in the game mirror those in the real world, the protagonist must be deliberately hiding his identity. Breaking the murmurs, a woman steps forward. By her dress and physique, there is no doubt that she is a magician. Without hesitation, ask the price of the ice cone spell. The protagonist responds in a direct way. It costs 100 negotiable days of life. Internally, he recognizes her as Grey Rose, currently ranked 11th in the Cell Town rankings. He also notices that she has activated the face-hiding function. Grey Rose hesitates before trying to negotiate. He argues that 100 days is too high a price and asks if he can reduce it. However, the protagonist remains firm. He explains that Ice Cone is a fundamental skill for wizards, significantly increasing the efficiency in eliminating monsters. At the beginning of the game, given its value, 100 days of negotiable life is already a fair price. He then asks if he would accept real money instead, but the protagonist declines, suggesting that if he has money, he should buy negotiable life from other players and return when he has enough. After a moment of reflection, Grey Rose turns to his teammates to hear their opinions. They are composed of 2 other players who quickly support his decision. They recognize that their rapid progression to level 2 was thanks to his leadership, and have no objections to pooling their resources. One of the companions points out that acquiring Ice Cone would allow the group to reach level 3 much faster, which would make it possible to return to reality earlier. Some of them have urgent issues to solve in the real world, which makes this investment valuable. Without further excitement, Grey Rose orders her companions to transfer all negotiable life to her, promising to refund them with real money as soon as they escape from the game. Returning to the protagonist, the woman transfers the negotiable 100 days of life, confirming who is ready to buy the Ice Cone spell. The protagonist quickly assesses the situation, deducing that, for a level 2 group to have made it this far, they must have defeated at least 30 to 40 tracker monsters, which means that their negotiable life total exceeds the 100 days. The system verifies the transaction, announcing that the protagonist has successfully sold the Ice Cone spell, and gained 100 days of tradable life, increasing his total from 268 to 368 days. As Grey Rose prepares to leave, a familiar presence interrupts the scene. The blonde girl from earlier quickly advances towards him, with a self-satisfied expression. With an air of superiority, he declares that he has finally found it. Smiling arrogantly, he offers her a chance. If he helped her climb to level 3, she would reward him with 10 million in real money as soon as they returned to reality. The players around him choke up in shock, muttering to each other about how the rumors were true. The idea of winning 10 million so easily seemed unreal. He continues to boast of his influence. His father, he says, is the president of John Industries, so there is no reason for him to doubt his ability. Payment. The protagonist, however, remains impassive. He processes the situation carefully, recognizing his true identity. John Lee. In her past life, she was the leader of a notorious criminal organization, later eradicated by the authorities. The reports had exposed their tactics to bring people with promises of money in exchange for negotiable life, only to kidnap and enslave them. Those who resisted found horrible fates in the real world. With a cold and unwavering expression, the protagonist bluntly rejects her offer, telling her to disappear. John is paralyzed, incredulous. He can't understand why anyone would turn down such a golden opportunity. Frustration crosses his face as he warns him that, despite his current strength in the game, no one really understands what is happening. She assures him that allying with her would guarantee him a life of luxury, cars, mansions, women, everything. Everything he desires, but the protagonist remains unwavering. If she wasn't there to buy something, she should leave immediately. He knew the reality of the situation. The money was about to become useless. Soon, negotiable life would be the only currency that mattered. Saying Kaylee's expression twisted with rage. She burst out, calling him an ungrateful fool, and insisting she was doing him a favor. She threatened that, if they were in the real world, she would have put him in his place by now. However, the protagonist had no patience for empty threats. His gaze darkened as he spoke with an icy, razor-sharp tone. He warned her that if she said one more word, he would make sure she lost every last day of her negotiable life. To reinforce his threat, he released a suffocating and menacing aura, sending shivers down the spine of those nearby. Sangela and his companions immediately recoiled in fear, their feigned bravery crumbling as they ran to escape. The remaining players were confused, trying to understand what had scared them so much. With the disturbance resolved, the protagonist resumed his sales. The system confirmed another successful transaction. A robe of weak light had been sold, ensuring him 19 more days of negotiable life. His total was now 546 days. The players who bought him marveled at his newly acquired strength, but the protagonist had already changed his focus to something else. With everything sold out, it was time to deal with the freaking monster boss. Activating his stealth ability, Hidden Shadow disappeared from view. As he did so, he was reflecting on the ignorance of the players around him. At that moment, none of them realized that negotiable life had another hidden function. One that would soon shake up the very structure of reality. None of them knew that this game, forgotten by the gods, was about to turn the world order upside down. While the players around him gaped, wondering if their eyes had deceived them, the protagonist silently declared the dark truth. The legacies they were so proud of would soon become insignificant. In the era that was to come, only one thing would matter: absolute strength. Those who failed to understand it would be left behind, buried in the dust of the new world order. The scene then switches to the blonde girl and her team, who are breathing heavily after running until they are out of breath. The blonde girl declares that, in addition to being rejected by Sombra, he also threatened her. He promises that, as soon as he returns to the real world, he will definitely find him and kill him. While he is thinking about that, he is approached by a man who introduces himself as Mao Li Hyun, or Lao Mao for short. Lao Mao explains that, at the moment, he is at level 2 and claims to know some tricks to level up in this game. He asks if he can accept the offer that Sombra rejected: the 10 million to help the blonde girl and her team reach level 3. The blonde girl, distrustful, asks what Lao Mao means by tricks. Lao Mao then explains to himself that he usually doesn't reveal his tricks to anyone, but, since this is the blonde girl, he will make an exception. He says that, in this situation, in order to level up quickly, it is necessary to assign all attribute points in agility. The 5 points should go to agility. Thus, the maximum running speed will be slightly higher than that of the monsters, and they will be able to beat him without taking damage. The blonde girl's eyes widen in surprise as she thinks she was silly for having put all her attribute points into strength. He tells Lao Mao that he accepts his proposal, but, as he is not as strong as Sombra, he states that he will only pay him 5 million in cash. He asks her if she accepts these terms, to which Lao Mao agrees, saying that, although Sombra is strong, she must have some mental problem for having refused such a large sum of money. The scene then switches to the protagonist, who has just arrived at the place on the map that he had previously marked. Still in stealth mode, he notices that the damn monster has already advanced to the silver classification level, and, judging by the gray mist enveloping his body, it means that he is still evolving. Activating his poison dart skill, the protagonist explains that the transition from silver to gold would take at least 7 or 8 hours, but since he was unwilling to wait, he threw the poison dart at the monster. The first strike caused a massive damage of 659 points thanks to its sneak attack. The poison dart began to cause continuous damage to the monster, reducing its life by 219 points per second. The protagonist immediately jumped towards the creature, activating his illusory image ability. While reasoning that the silver boss's life was about 2 or 3 times that of a bronze boss, suddenly, the monster began to accumulate a huge magical energy in his hands, causing it to grow more and more. The protagonist concluded that he needed to hit it with the poison dart 2 or 3 more times, but, in an instant, the monster unleashed its attack, destroying the surrounding area. The protagonist explained that the damn monster was a magic-type boss, and that most of his abilities were area attacks, dealing a huge amount of damage in one go. He added that as soon as he threw the poison dart, he immediately backed up, and barely managed to get out of the range of the attack. Still invisible, he recognized that, with his current health and defense, he would be dead if he received the monster's attack head-on. As the battle continued, the monster started charging another devastating attack. His huge silhouette leaned in the direction of the protagonist, but he remained calm, moving around the battlefield, while keeping a close eye on his reloading timer. His hidden shadow skill was still out of commission, and he knew that he needed to buy time until the boss showed a moment of weakness. The plan was simple: wait for the perfect opening, attack accurately, and disappear before the monster could counter. Moments later, the creature hesitated, momentarily distracted. It was the perfect opportunity. Without hesitation, he advanced, activating his poison dart skill. The attack was completely successful, causing a solid damage of 659 points. Almost instantly, the effect of the poison began to act, slowing down the monster's life. At a constant rate of 219 points per second. Realizing that he was in grave danger, the monstrous boss turned to escape, but the protagonist would not allow him to leave. She chased him from behind, her gaze cold and calculating. The creature was in its last moments, its desperate attempt to retreat proving futile. Compared to that pathetic struggle, giving up would have been much easier. In a blur of movement, the protagonist disappeared and reappeared on top of the creature's head, violently crushing it to the ground. The system quickly confirmed his victory. He had defeated the Cursed One, a formidable silver-level boss. A flood of notifications flooded his view. 1,800 experience points earned, raising his level from 3 to 5 instantly. In addition, he was rewarded with 4 evolution points, and an impressive 124 days of negotiable life. The protagonist couldn't help but smile. Killing a single boss had boosted his progress by 2 levels, and still awarded him an unexpected bonus of evolution points. When the defeated monster's body was undone in looting, he activated the evolved version of his lever hand ability. The air vibrated when a system screen appeared, confirming the successful looting process. The rewards were even greater than expected. 4 more points of evolution, and another 124 days of negotiable life. This effectively doubled his initial earnings. The generosity of the rewards made him smile. 2 extra bonuses from the beginning. It wasn't bad at all. With a quick calculation, he realized that the silver-level boss had awarded him a total of 12 evolution points, and 372 days of negotiable life. But, while processing his winnings, another notification from the system appeared, an unexpected bonus. The side effect of Leverist's hand had been activated, enhancing one of his looted silver rarity items now. He watched the notification with curiosity, a golden tear. It was no wonder that Leverist's hand was classified as a hard-level skill. He had the ability to improve the serve beyond its original rarity. His attention was focused on the items scattered on the floor. 7, maybe 8 pieces of equipment had fallen, but his backpack only had 10 spaces available. He sighed. If he had to go back every time he defeated a boss, it would be a huge waste of time. Ideally, the damn creature would have dropped a storage ring or something similar that made things a lot easier, right when the protagonist was. I was about to inspect a specific item among the looting. The scene abruptly changed back to the initial city. There, Wang Meg's team materialized in a blaze of light, her face lighting up with relief. I was finally back, all thanks to Wang Meg. When the rest of the team appeared, they expressed their gratitude, acknowledging that, without Wang Meg's leadership, they would not have managed to reach level 3 and return safely. But Wang Meg brushed off the praise, insisting her progress was the result of collective effort. The maid, however, could not get rid of a persistent regret. He sighed, regretting that he couldn't add that big guy as a friend in the dungeon. Maybe, she mused, it was because she was covered in mud at the time. Her teammate reassured her with a playful smile, pointing out that, with her new and clean clothes, she was perfect. Probably the same one. Mysterious player wouldn't turn her down again. As they were chatting, a sudden announcement of the system echoed throughout the city. The leaderboard had been updated. Sadu had reached level 5. The news surprised the players in the city. Someone exclaimed incredulously, asking how Sadu had managed to rise from level 3 to 5 so quickly. The only logical explanation was that he should have defeated a powerful boss. Another player chimed in, claiming that, just 10 minutes ago, he had seen Sadu casually selling equipment in the town square. And now this, meanwhile, in a moment of desperation, a guy declared, maybe jokingly, Maybe not. That his younger sister had just turned 18. If she liked Sadu, it would be a great triumph for the family. After all, having Sadu helping with the level up would change everything. His friends immediately reprimanded him, reminding him that Sadu was someone who did not even blink at an offer of 10 million money. There was not the slightest chance that he would be interested in a marriage proposal. Back at Wang Meg's camp, his team started to panic. They had just celebrated reaching level 3, only to realize that Shadow had already left them behind. But Wang Meg remained calm. He encouraged them to put aside worries for the time being. They needed to get out of the game, return to reality, and alert their families and friends about this scary game. As their bodies began to disappear, the system confirmed the logout process. Wang Meg's last words were serious. If the world really was heading for chaos, the least they could do was prepare their loved ones for what was coming. The scene changed again, this time to the real world. Wang Meg's eyes suddenly opened, and almost immediately a voice called out to him, alerting the captain. He was not just an ordinary player, Wang Meg was a policeman. His fellow officers ran towards him, visibly upset. One of them confessed that they were deeply worried. His body began to become translucent, while he was unconscious. The terrifying truth was now clear. If a player died in the game, or lost his entire life, he was not only disconnected, he was erased from existence in the real world. But there was no time to process that. Wang Meg quickly got up, and shouted to everyone to gather. Something serious had happened. The story was continuing inside a police station, where a serious discussion was taking place. An authoritative voice broke the silence, questioning Wang Meg about his report. According to him, his team had formed a group, and, surprisingly, each member had a hidden profession. A significant advantage in the game. However, despite this advantage, they were almost annihilated by a single monster. Only thanks to an unknown player, Sadu, they managed to save themselves at the last moment. Wang Meg confirms that everything in her report is correct. He then goes on to detail Sadu's impressive progress. When Sadu intervened, he was barely at level 3. However, by the time Wang Meg and her team managed to reach that same level, Sadu had already advanced to level 5. An unprecedented leap of 2 full levels. This revelation raises concern among high-ranking officers. One of them raises the obvious question: does this mean that Shadow is now the strongest player in the world? How did you manage to level up so quickly? Speculation begins, and Wang Meg offers a possible explanation. Maybe Adu has defeated a high-level boss monster or done something equally extraordinary. Another officer, intrigued by the details, points out a peculiar inconsistency in Wang Mei's account. Shadow was already at level 3 when he rescued them. If that was the case, why didn't he log off like the others? It could be that Shadow didn't have family or close friends waiting for him in the real world. I had no reason to return. Wang Meg admits that she has no concrete information about Shadow or his true identity. At that moment, an officer intervenes with a bold theory. He suggests that Sadu could be a transmigrant, one of those rare individuals who seem to emerge from nowhere, gaining strength quickly, as if they were destined to become powerful. He points out that transmigrants are usually orphans, which could explain why Sedon did not return to reality. Her speculation silences the room, and, realizing the weight of her words, she blushes in shame. The senior officer, indifferent, calls her by name, and tells her to stop making jokes during such a serious discussion. He dismisses his theory, commenting that he has read too many notes. Novels? However, returning to the main topic, the officer shares critical information. According to confidential reports from superiors, investigators have been looking into a disturbing pattern. Many elderly individuals have died mysteriously in their sleep. When these data were crossed with the people who returned from the forgotten game of the gods, a frightening conclusion emerged. Those who died in their sleep had also died several times within the game. This revelation confirms a horrible truth. If a player's life bar reaches 0 in the game, he not only dies there, but also dies in reality. One of the officers expresses his concern, calling the forgotten game of the gods an anomaly, something far beyond his current understanding. The chief officer agrees, suggesting that what they are witnessing could be an invasion by unknown beings from higher dimensions. The implications are alarming, and the room sinks into a heavy silence as everyone processes this possibility. Without hesitation, the chief officer moves on to urgent business. He informs everyone present that the superiors, probably the government, have issued an emergency directive. Each officer must form state-of-the-art teams according to their location. Enter the forgotten game of the gods, and collect as much information as possible. This is not just a police matter anymore. The government itself is mobilizing to form a specialized professional force to deal with this unprecedented crisis. He emphasizes the global scale of the situation. All nations are racing to explore and understand this new reality, and to fall behind in this effort would mean losing international influence. For the sake of national security, they should get information at all costs. With this, the chief officer announces his decision. Emmy will be named Team 1 captain. Without hesitation, she accepts the charge. Wang Meg is appointed as their vice-captain, and both are given authority to choose their own teammates. Wang Meg nods, understanding the gravity of the mission. The chief officer then turns his attention to Sadu, the mysterious player Wang Meg found. According to Wang Meg's report, Sadu does not appear to be a malicious person or someone with hostile goals. That's why the chief officer issues a direct order. Nu and Wang Meg must try to get closer to him. His goal is clear: to discover Sadu's true identity and establish a working relationship with him. He also explains the reason why he puts Nu in charge of this task. Her vast experience with games and fictional stories makes her the most qualified to investigate someone like Sadu, whose abilities and actions seem almost mythical. The chief officer expresses his hope that Nu and Wang Meg will manage to secure Sadu as an ally, someone who can act as their in-game representative. If they are successful, they will have access to vital information that could give them a strategic advantage. As for the rest of the officers, their main mission will be to maintain public order and prevent mass panic. With these final words, the meeting closes. The sun begins to set, casting a golden glow over the city as the officers prepare for the challenges that await them. The next day, the scene changes to a high school, where the protagonist's younger sister is sitting at her table, lost in her thoughts. Around him, students are chatting animatedly about recent events. A small group nearby discusses a surprising revelation. Sandai, the student whose body had started to disappear, managed to reach level 3 in the game and logged out safely. One of the girls explains that we shared a crucial detail: if several people from the same region fall asleep at the same time, they will all be transported to the same initial village within the game. This news arouses a mixture of excitement and concern among the students. Another girl, alarmed by this information, insists that this cannot happen. She needs to come home and bring her parents to the game. They do not have any experience with games, and she is terrified with the possibility that something will happen to her if they enter this world unprepared. However, another student disagrees, arguing that they should not rush to involve parents just yet. Instead, they should focus on getting stronger first. Only then will they be able to protect their families when the time comes. Meanwhile, the protagonist's younger sister looks at the phone, deep in her thoughts, while a persistent frustration bubbles up inside her. Why hasn't her brother contacted her yet, considering something as monumental as the forgotten game of the gods? She was waiting for at least a message from him, but there was nothing. Not only did he stop checking on her, but he also didn't apologize for hitting her earlier. That was completely different from him. In the past, whenever they argued or she left him upset, he would always find a way to make peace with her. But today, silence. No apology, no attempt to fix things. Even her parents had never laid a finger on her, and yet he, her own brother, had beaten her. Still upset, she tries to justify her actions. All he did was skip class to watch Sunfi's show. Was that really such a big deal? She crosses her arms, deciding that unless her brother calls her and apologizes at least 1,000 times, she will never forgive him. Her irritation quickly turns into excitement as she begins to melt at the thought of Sunfi. On second thought, it was a blessing to have gone to see him yesterday. When the forgotten game of the gods takes over completely, you may not have many other opportunities to go to your souls. A dreamy expression takes over his face as he recalls the night before, reliving the moment when she was so close to him during the performance. A mental image of Song Fi on stage appears in her mind, and she completely melts into fan mode, sighing about how amazing it was. But then, a realization hits her.